external and internal pressure. What do you mean by that? Do you mean you're feeling pressure from inside the club to change results?
No, I wasn't talking about myself. I was talking about us as a club. So it's always internal pressure in terms of what we've spoken about today, whether that's the fan disenchantment, and that's internal, and external is what happened last night with the decisions.
You talk about kind of falling out of love with the game and just sort of being worn down. I mean, to what extent has this season, with all the problems you've encountered, the injuries and the rest of it, to what extent has that kind of played?
No, not at all. Like I said, that's just part of it. I said before, I'm a fighter, so the bigger the fight, the more I sort of enjoy that challenge. But I can't fight against an invisible opponent. So that's what the bit that's worn me down. I don't know how to tackle that. So I can't tackle that. And in the past, like I said, I've always felt like, okay, nothing you can do about referees. You kind of leave them to their own devices. But it's not just decisions now. It's the standing around, and everything affects the game. So I don't know how to. I can't conquer that. I can't. So that's the bit that's if you want to use that terminology, worn me down.
In your experience, Ange, is the internal pressure and difficulty that you face at Tottenham unique? Have you ever had that at other clubs? Is it different?
It's just different, yeah, for sure. It's different. But I kind of knew. See, I don't speak about that because I knew that coming in. If anyone comes into this role and thinks that it's going to be a smooth ride or an easy ride, knowing the history of the club, I think don't take the role. So that none of that's kind of surprising to me. I knew what I was taking on. I knew this was going to be a tough gig for sure, because there's a whole weight of things that you're trying to rail against. So so from that perspective, it is different to other clubs I've been at for sure. Other clubs have had different challenges that you can overcome, but obviously and like I said, I think a lot of it is also, how the club is viewed externally. It seems like every fight, like I said, ends up being an internal fight for this club. There's never any sort of defending of the club or the club defending itself, it seems like to me, which makes it even more difficult because whenever every club goes through tough moments, it's how you react to them, and so that's a unique challenge. But again, like I said, I accepted that challenge, so I've got to try and find a way to overcome it.
How could the club defend itself?
I think by being more vocal in many respects. Well, I hope not. I mean, I think you hear enough from me. You probably hear too much from me, to be honest. I think it doesn't have to be just from people at the club. I mean, I just, I hear plenty of people sort of talking and defending other clubs. But it seems like with Tottenham, it's wherever there's a sore, there's a real pile-on to sort of stick a finger in that sore and kind of then we kind of accept our fate. Like I said, I think the fact that last night the big story out of that is that, my interaction with the fans, and not the fact that a game of football is materially changed by technology. And again, I know people can say, well, but we got to the right decision. It's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about VAR said clear and obvious, 6 minutes for clear and obvious. And I would have thought that would be the story from last night, but it's not. It's, again, what is it? It's, my interaction with the fans and, how I've sort of made things more difficult. So you kind of go, okay, well, that's the challenge we face.
I've always been fascinated in my time covering Tottenham that very good managers are very successful before they join Tottenham and very successful after they leave Tottenham, and they're never successful at Tottenham. Is that one of the main contributing factors that we've just been talking about?
Look, it's hard for me to say because I don't want to, every manager's got their own sort of, I guess, views on this. But I just don't think it's about the managers themselves. And I think, I said during the week, at some point, and look, I've almost lasted 2 years, Matt. It's pretty good, mate, yeah, for Tottenham. Yeah, also, yeah, so, at some point, I think the club needs to, stick to something. And if I say now, it sounds self-serving, so it defeats the purpose. So maybe not now, but I think, you know, if you want to change the course of your events, you need to change materially a lot of things in terms of the way you know, your outlook as a club. And you know, from my perspective, is, you know, while I'm in this chair, is to see whether I can find a way to navigate it. Like you said, that others have struggled to do that. But as you rightly point out, there's life after this for everybody, including Tottenham and including me.
Andrew, when you talk about who's defending other clubs, what do you mean by that? External forces who are defending other clubs in similar situations?
Yeah, I think there's. I think we're never. I mean, I think in the time I've been here, we've had two decisions that have gone for us against Liverpool, and there's been a national campaign almost. You know.
Who's leading this campaign?
You tell me, mate. You guys know the landscape better than I do, but it seems like I you know, I never switch it on and hear any sort of strong voice. I think, as Matt says, I mean, the only voice you kind of hear is me. You know, I mean, I don't. When I'm talking about sort of the bigger clubs, there seems to be a lot more voices, and not always defending. You know, you always you need scrutiny and you know, sort of constructive criticism as well. But we definitely get enough of that, but we don't get any of the other stuff. You know.
It feels like we've all heard previous managers at Spurs almost lamenting the fact that the guy sitting in that chair is the only spokesman for this football club. Obviously, it's now you, and it feels like we've heard previous managers almost feel that as a weight. Is that sort of unfair?
Yeah, but again, I think that wasn't. That's not an unknown. It's not like that's changed. So I knew that taking on the role. So if I wasn't prepared to accept that, then I shouldn't have taken on the role. So I took on the role. I accept that challenge. Fair to say, this year hasn't obviously worked out. Again, though, you know, but that's the other thing. You know, we finished fifth last year, and any other year that would have been a Champions League spot, and just people it doesn't register. You know, so you know, if you have, going to Matt's point, if you have 5 years at a club and you have maybe one or two sort of disappointing years, but you have 3 really strong years, you'd say, okay, well, I'll take that. But here you can't have one good year. And last year was a good year. I don't care what anyone says. We lost Harry. I know everyone talks about our stuff. We lost Harry. We finished 5th. We changed the way we played, changed it. But it seems like, well, you have one good year, then you have one poor year, and then that's it. You know, let's move on to the next. But that's what I accepted. So I can't sit here and say, oh, you know, woe is me. That's the challenge I accepted. Fair to say at the moment I'm not doing a good job of turning that sort of mind shift around. But as I said earlier, I'm a fighter. I'll continue fighting until told otherwise.
You said earlier when you have interactions with fans that oversteps, in your opinion, you won't tolerate it, you're old school. I think we can all appreciate that. You sort of fight that good fight, I suppose. But there have been a few moments this season because everyone's got a phone with a camera that have come up, I'm sure you're aware of it, which from the outside feels like it only adds to your problems. I suppose the question is, why engage? Because you're always going to get supporters after defeat.
That's a super point. I'm glad you asked me. You know what, Tom? That's something I'm definitely going to fight against. Let me. I don't know whose phone this is. It's blank, but I'll keep using it. Right. Sorry, but if somebody says to you, right, Tom, that was a good article last night, but I don't like that point you made. You go, okay, mate, and you might just walk off. If somebody says, hey, Tom, I didn't like that article, what do you think they're trying to achieve? No, hold on a sec. No. Reciprocal question. Let me answer it. What I think they're trying to achieve, they're not really interested in an answer to a question. They just want a reaction. They want their 5 minutes of fame because that's what this gives them. And that's what I was talking about, right? For young people, this is more dangerous than any other weapon in the world as far as I'm concerned. And so if I don't pull up, especially young kids, who put up a phone to my face, then what's stopping them doing that in the schoolyard? What's stopping them doing that in general life and bullying people? Because it's a bullying mechanism. It's not criticism. Like I said, if you think that after almost 30 years in the game that I've received abuse from over Mate, from the first day, of course, I don't react to that. But if somebody's holding up a phone, I will react to it because I won't accept it. Because, and if, I think it was it might have been the Fulham game you're talking about where that happened. There was two young boys that were doing it. And I asked them, I don't know if it's shown in the clip, but I asked them, where's your dad? I wanted to talk to their dad. Or where's your mum? And they got slightly sheepish and embarrassed because it's not criticism I'm reacting to. It's them holding up a phone. Why are you holding up a phone? What are you trying to do? So you can put it on social media and say, look, I got Ange Postecoglou to react. Isn't that great? So now I can take it. I'm 60 years old. I don't care. What if they do that in the schoolyard? What if they do that in general life? What if they do that to you, Tom? You know, somebody's walking around and not criticising you because you'll say, yeah, mate, I'm a big boy and handle it. But they put a phone in your face to do it. As soon as I see a phone, mate, I'm going to react. I'm not going to accept. Now, hopefully, I could be wrong. I didn't swear in that. I wasn't abusive in that. All I asked was a simple question, right? And I'm always going to do that. And like I said, I'm fighting the good fight. Okay, that sounds a bit contrite that, you know, he's this old man who's just going to rail against society. But as I said at the outset, I'm not going to be one of these people that accepts just whatever's put in front. I'm not going to do it, mate. I'm just not that stage of my life where I'm just going to accept people trying to bully or antagonise me or trying to do things that I think show total disrespect. And again, I'm not talking about somebody just shouting over the fence at me, okay? Very specific about that. And like I said, that's happened a few times and I always react to it and I always will.
I think we can all appreciate that. I think, to be honest, as a dad and kids, I like that message. It's great. It's just, I suppose, why do you feel like you need to
Because
to take on that responsibility where you're almost trying to do a sort of social good by responding? It's only causing me to ask you questions.
Because I just feel it's right. You know, sometimes you just got to do the right thing, mate. And it's what I believe in. You know, I'm not going to. I've said many times I've made a real conscious effort of not letting the game change me as a person. It's what I believe in. And to be, you know, just to be absolute, I'm not a perfect human being, mate. I make plenty of mistakes, but there's certain values that I'll carry through to the day I die. Like you, I've got kids, I've got boys. You know, my wife will ban them having a phone till they're 18, I reckon, if she can get away with it, right? Because, not because of anything else, is like I said, I really fear for where that kind of thing's heading. So I'm not going to accept it. It's the same. It's no different to VAR. Obviously, this is a social issue. That's a football issue. But I'm going to stand up for what I believe is right. Now, people may disagree with me. I understand that. But part of society is having those kind of dissenting voices to maybe ask those questions. Right? I'm happy to take that on. And I understand your question. You're saying, well, it just piles extra pressure on me. That doesn't necessarily too, but I don't see it as pressure. I see it as a responsibility I have while I'm in this, you know, in this sort of public spotlight to call out what I think is not right, and I'll happily take on that responsibility.
And just finally, you were saying about being a lone voice on VAR. I don't know how it works with managers anymore after games. You know, the old Fergie having a bottle of wine after a chat. I mean, maybe that doesn't happen as much.
No,
anymore,
it doesn't. No.
When you do get chances to speak to other managers, do you feel a lone voice in that sense? Do they see your point of view?
I don't know. It's not really discussions I've had. I know every time we sort of get together, there's you know, the league brings all the managers together, and there's the usual sort of, you know, everyone's got their own personal gripes. But I don't sense as a unified sort of feeling that, you know. What I keep hearing is that everyone, you know, most managers want VAR or they're happy with VAR. I think most managers would say that if it improved decision making, improved the game, then yeah, bring it in. I think most managers would want it to be a cleaner, more efficient. My view was, it's probably where I'm an outlier, is that don't bring it in until it's ready. You know, until we're really confident that, you know what, it's clean. I mean, I kept hearing that, you know, we'll never get a Maradona goal again in a World Cup final with VAR. Yeah, but that was one decision of about 10 million. But now every goal gets scrutinised. I just don't. I don't know. I don't think that was the intention of it. But I don't get the sense anyone else is as strong about it as I am. So, in that sense, you know, I guess I've got to accept it. Like I said, I'm disconnected with where the game's heading, but what is it? Rage against the dying light or something like that. So I'll just keep fighting, mate, till I'm told to stop.
Does the trophy change everything?
No, it doesn't change everything, I think. I've said before, I think for sustainable success, you still got to stick to a course of events. I think if, but, you know, what a trophy does, it eliminates some of the sort of noise around the club and kind of what other people feel is missing. It's not what I think is the only piece that's missing. I think you need to build something that's sustainable. I've said that from the start. We started that last year with, like I said, the way we play, the squad we have. It's a young squad that we want to keep growing, we want to add to. But certainly it would sort of, you know, quieten a lot of the noise, whether that's internally or externally, about, you know, what's missing at this club.
So the only way to quieten noise, it feels like you said, there's nothing I can say. It's got to be something
Yeah,
you do.
probably. Yeah, from that point of view, you're probably right. Yeah. I don't think there's anything. I think, like I said, I mean, well into my second year, if people don't really see what I'm trying to do at this moment, I don't think they're ever going to see it. So, if a trophy is the only way, then seems to be the only way. Well, okay, well let's see if we can deliver that, and then see what happens.
We're going to have to leave it there, I'm afraid.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you, bud.